Hey painting friends, thanks for joining me today. My name is Stoof, and today I'm taking you plein air painting with me from my balcony in Santorini, Greece. I stayed at a little boutique hotel in the town of Fira, which has some amazing views of the caldera, the sea, and the sunsets. I wanted to create this plein air painting using oil paints closer to sunset time, so there was a little more variety in the colors of the buildings. For example, warmer whites and cooler shadows. However, when working at this time of day, I had to work a little more quickly than normal because the sun was moving closer to the horizon more quickly, and the colors and the shadows were changing more quickly as well. I started this piece by painting in the sky at the top of the canvas. I just wanted that top inch to an inch and a half of the canvas to be sky. The sky closest to the horizon line was mostly white with a little bit of that seafoam green type color. As I got a little higher up in the sky, I started to blend in a little bit more of my oriental blue. If you have a phthalo blue, that's also a pretty similar color. Next, I painted in the horizon line where we can see that distant strip of island visible in the sea. I then started to block in a few of the key features in the buildings of this hillside that you can see in front of me, closer to the viewer. After blocking in a few shapes for the buildings, just to identify a few key points and focal points of the painting, I continued painting in the colors of the sea, mixing in titanium white, the oriental blue, some crimson red, an earthy reddish tone that I have, and little hints of brown, maybe little hints of green here and there as well. As I was painting in the sea, I just used those back and forth horizontal brushstroke motions to get that nice smooth wave-like, very calm wave-like appearance. Next, I started to add just a little bit of detail to that distant island in the background. There are some buildings on that top of the hillside there, so I put in a few of those lighter streaks of white mixed with a bit of blue and brown to identify some building features there. I also started to add some shadows and highlights on the land. The island has a steep slope down to the sea. So I mixed in more blues and browns for the rocks that were on the shadowy side of each ridge, and more earthy red, whites, and orange for the rocks that were more illuminated by the sunlight. Because these rocks are also far away, there aren't purely warm colors here, so there's still bits of brown and blue mixed into my warmer colors because there's so much distance between your positioning and where that island is. So much atmosphere gets into the scene. So you don't want to use like super warm colors with a lot of contrast to the cool when things are that far away. Even your warmer highlights are going to have some cooler tones in there. Next, I started to block in the highlights and the shadows for the features closer to the viewer in the foreground. In general, the buildings that were illuminated by the sunlight had some portrait pink, Naples yellow, hints of ochre, maybe little hints of orange in there, with titanium white. The features that are more in shadow, closer to the foreground, had blues, purples, browns, maybe some ochres with the purples to balance out the saturation a bit. And there also were some shrubs and potted plants and a palm tree. Those plants had sap green, some ochre, and then the parts of the plant that were more in shadow had more blues, browns, sap green, maybe a bit of purple in there. There also were a couple other colors that were blended into the scene. There were some more reddish brown areas, some more gray areas. And I do block those colors into the scene, but I don't want them to stand out too much and draw in a new focal point. So I tone those down by using complementary colors or just making the contrast not too extreme in the areas where some building or feature was not white or a creamy color. I also blocked in some windows for the buildings here. Some windows had glass that were reflecting more of that darker value, so it was like a bluish, brownish color. Some windows were just like openings that led into another area, so for that it was just more of the shadowy color that I'm using for other parts of buildings. I think the trickiest part of this plein air painting was just properly blocking in the sizes and shapes of each building here in the foreground, because it tends to all become a blur when you just take a quick look at it. You're like, okay, there's a bunch of buildings here, and then there's the sea, and then there's a mountain. And if something was off, you would instantly be drawn to that area. For example, I think I initially put that dome, little church structure, I made that a little too narrow and it just looked off. I did adjust the shape of that at the very end, but I'm pretty happy with that. And I also like how the hillside creates this diagonal shape that leads to that horizontal for the island in the background. So I worked on this plein air painting for about 45 minutes. The sun had gone down a bit more in that time and the shadows did change a bit, but not too drastically. It was just a quick little study. Painting cityscapes is not my forte. Landscapes and human portraits are more what I focus on, so I always enjoy a new challenge. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this tutorial, if you like this painting. If you didn't like it, you can let me know as well. If you have recommendations for future painting tutorials, leave a comment below and I'll add that to my list of things to paint. If you are new here, welcome. Consider subscribing to my channel if you're interested in this type of content. I do beginner to advanced painting tutorials, plein air videos like this, and I post other art business related videos. You are also invited to sign up for my monthly newsletter on my website, stephmoracafineart.com. I have a link for that in the description under this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day and happy painting!